a much better picture of one of these dead men. It's got his face. His eyes are gray. Means he's been dead a while. There's another man in the video, and his skin is brown. I don't mean that he was a black man. I mean he'd been dead for weeks. And it's got some powerful music. Very powerful music. A lot of hate in it. A lot of anger. A lot of grrr. I'm going to post a link to the video. It's a reality of war in Ukraine. War anywhere. Take a look at those bodies. I want you to stop and imagine that that's your heroin-addicted sister that you kicked out to the curb. She out on the streets victimizing other homeless people to get her fix. Or your brother in the same situation. I want you to imagine that that's a Mexican coming across the border, hoping for a better life. God, I'm so fucking snotted up and nastified, it ain't even funny. Crying like a little girl probably don't help neither. This guy calls himself Valgear, and he shows some stuff that I feel is very fucking important for Americans to know. The people that we're fucking with, they know their weapons. One thing that that being the Russians, learned quite well in World War II, is the value of something good in large numbers and large quantities. The Russians took a lot of their technology during and after World War II directly from Americans, not just the Christie suspension system that went on their T-34s. We're talking about complete... Sorry, one moment, I'm going to have to sneeze. Maybe a few times. The complete dismantling of American items. It was even Americans, pioneers, and assembly lines that helped create the T-34 factories. God, I'm so nastified. I'm sorry about that. The two men on the front of this, those aren't men anymore. Those are just bodies. It's the most humane way to show them to Americans who will get offended. They don't want to see the consequences of what they're cheering for or against. They just want to pretend that the right thing is being done, regardless of who it's being done to. Because it's not being done to them. The Soviet Union is attached to China. It's attached to Europe and Asia. Russia is not separated from most of its enemies by a massive ocean. And Kiev Kiev was a prize to be won because it was one of the original capitals of the Russian Empire. Going all the way back, almost to the Viking days. Now, this guy Valgeir, I show his channel a lot because he shows you the functionality of the weapons themselves, why they work the way they do, how to fire them, how to use them. Something that a lot of people in nations that civilians aren't allowed to own guns, most of the civilians know how to fire them. Let's talk about the RPG-7, and there's modern versions and modern optics as well, modern projectiles. You need the modern optics in order to fire the modern projectiles accurately. Or you need the conversion chart. God, I'm sorry, I'm so nasty right now. I can't find my Kleenex either. Oh, I'll just use this shirt. Fuck it, I can't wear it anyway, it's dirty. Yeah, I feel bad for the Russians. Yes, I want Ukraine to win. No, I don't want Russia to win. But I want all those soldiers to go home. I don't want them to end up like the two dead men on the front cover of this. I like the mechanics of it. I watch a lot of stuff about war, mostly for the history. What was the result? I don't mean what was the ultimate outcome of winner and loser. I mean, what was the result for the people? Battles are, in fact, won and lost based on the determination of the civilian population. If you can get the civilian population to work together because of religion, fine. You make a government based on that religion. If the most unifying factor is possession and ownership, then that's what you base your government on. Whatever the people are interested in, that's what you've got to focus on. A lot of the people in the Gaza Strip right now, they've been wasting resources doing what? Making weapons of war for a war they don't possibly have any hope to win. The people of the Gaza Strip could get rid of Hamas quick, fast, and in a goddamn hurry. Israel could eradicate the leadership of all three Palestinian governments in one night. What the fuck were they thinking? The intelligence at Tel Aviv is excellent. For them to pull off what they did, here's what they would have had to do. They would have had to surprise all of the militants in one night, provide all of the rockets in one night, set them up in one night, which means that almost nobody knew what the fuck was going on, except for the person who financed it all. How do you find the guilty culprit? You follow the logistics trail. Where did they get the materials? For me, I happen to buy a lot of different materials around town that could possibly be used for making bad things that you don't want things happening to you with. So what do? I make sure that none of those things are in the same place at the same time. I make sure that any active ingredient that could be counteracted with another ingredient is, because I don't want certain reactions to happen. I know that there are certain chemicals that I cannot put in my car, specifically because I have spilled .3 fluid in it. I know very specifically that if I get a maintenance job and they want me to use pool shock treatment, that I have to tell them no. Absolutely not. That will light my fucking car on fire, no joke. I want you to take a look at my hand, and I want you to imagine that the people who went through some of those deaths, some of them burned to death. Now this burn wound on my hand, you know what it took to stop it? There was a meth addict here in town. He also smokes them blue pills. A lot of people in town do that. It's real popular here on the West Coast. He gave me this hand wrap stuff from his first aid kit, because he gets to where he has these episodes and he gives stuff away because he wants people to like him. The people that really, really like that the most and respond to that the most are the homeless, and they're taking complete advantage of the guy. And you know what? I understand why. The guy's being nice to them. For a lot of these people, they can't remember the last time somebody, quote-unquote, sane was actually nice to them like that. Now, that's not to say that I'm not grateful for all the people that have helped me out, and they have helped me out just to survive, but not to speak up, not to be heard. I'm tired of all the bodies. I'm tired of seeing all the bodies. Thank goodness I don't have to see everybody out here. But y'all gotta know these things are happening. And I went up the mountain and I made sure I got some of my important tools. Not for making explosives, not for making guns, not for anything of that sort. What's this? This is a plastic bottle. This is what I defend myself with, not with rocket launchers, not with explosive munitions, not with rifles, not with handguns, not with an M16 or an AR-15, not with an M1 Grand, not with a 303 Enfield number 2 Mark IV, not with a Remington 700 or 710. This right here is an air bottle. It's a soda bottle. That's all it is. I took a valve stem off of a vehicle. Let's try to get some light in here so we can see this shit. Alright. 15% battery. Well, that ain't shit. Look at this. You see that? That's top to an air horn. What did I do? I went down to the lumber yard. I got myself like a 14-cent fitting. That's that gray piece. Let me try to... I don't have very good hands right now. I got assaulted by some cops. This gray piece here is a cheap fitting. This right here is a valve stem. And this is the top to an air horn that I found that died. It don't work no more. I'll put this up here. I'll do that. I screwed a hole in the cap. I'm gonna find something to stick in my... Ah, shit. Nah, it's pretty late. I probably shouldn't. Let's find something to tap that with. This will work. It's pretty stiff. I can unscrew the top and show you the valve stem. This is a loud son of a bitch. It's a lot louder than an air horn. It's also a lot higher pitch. It hurts. Just a short blast will scare the living hell out of you. You see that? Just like on a car. Let's see if we can hit this from a little bit different angle. Just like on a car. It's a valve stem. Fills this with air. I'd rather have this than a shotgun any day. I'm not interested in hurting people. But there's folks in this world that don't care who's hurt. Unfortunately, in the United States of America, we have taught a lot of women that it's okay to be heartless. There's a lot of women who have support Ukraine stickers up. And a lot of men too, for that matter. I support Ukraine too. But I still want all soldiers to go home. Not just the Ukrainian ones. I want the Russian soldiers to be able to go home safely to their families instead of becoming gray-eyed and docile for the rest of eternity. These were human beings once, and people with positions of power took advantage of that and got these men's lives ended. How many people have threatened to kill me and my friends and family? How much documentation do I have of it? A fucking lot. It ain't just Ukraine. We have a lot of women here in the United States that came from Ukraine. Did you know that? Do you know how most of them got here? Russians primarily traffic in Russian women. Ukrainians primarily traffic in Ukrainian women. They'll find a way to make it legal. Sort of. As long as everyone keeps their mouth shut. But there's people who are trying to speak up, and it's the people who are the most likely to know this stuff. Who's the most likely victim? A homeless woman. In Colorado alone, there's at least a dozen Russian women that I know. Some of them are probably Ukrainian. Some of them have told me that they have family in both Russia and Ukraine. You know, when you flee the Soviet Union in 1983 or 1986, they're kind of the same fucking place. The Soviet Union, Kiev was part of the Soviet Union. So is Moscow, Belarus. Georgia. Here in the United States, when we say Georgia, you think of the United States province of Georgia, or the United States state of Georgia. But there's a Russian Georgia as well. Used to be. They became a separate nation. And of course, this is all in history books, but it's also stuff that most of the people my generation didn't pay any attention to. I paid close attention in history. I don't remember everything that I learned, but I was one of the few. Most people paid absolutely no attention. They were too busy trying to get laid. That's what a lot of people that age do. Go through puberty. Tough to stay focused when you're focused on puberty. Those guys in the picture, you can't tell how old they are. Apparently the average age of the Russian soldier is only 19. That's average. When you got a 70-year-old general, or even a 50-year-old general, you got to consider there's a lot of 18-year-olds that have to make up for that general. When you got sergeants or the equivalent thereof that are in their 20s or 30s, you got to figure it takes a lot of 18-year-olds to make up for that too. There are also mercenaries, 18-year-old mercenaries. That's just insane. I mean, it wouldn't have been in the Vikings' day. And yeah, sure, they teach how to fire an AK-47 in every fucking high school in Russia, no joke. When I found that out, I was like, there's no fucking way. There is no way that you have to learn how to field strip an AK-47 to graduate high school in Russia. There's no fucking way. You go to the Ukraine, how many of the people there don't know how to use an RPG-7? Over 9 million of them have been made. The AK-47, shit, it doesn't have to be as accurate as an M16. It's reliable. And when you're talking about a 6-inch MOA at 100 yards, and you're talking about an inch, inch and a half grouping with an M16, really, a body doesn't care. When you got somebody 100 yards off and they're moving and you're trying to get that shot off, whether it's off by an inch or 6 inches, it's still off. But it's still going to hit center mass if you're aiming for center mass. And that's where most soldiers are taught to aim, center mass. Biggest target, it'll drop them. What do they have on center mass? We got a lot of Kevlar, a lot of ceramic, a lot of specialized steel plates. It don't do any goddamn good, does it? Those soldiers are dead. They're meat for the worms. Now, I'm probably wrong about this quote, but I'm pretty sure it was Mercutio who said, "Thou hast made worms meat of me." A plague on both your houses. As soon as something dies, its flesh starts to rot. Those bodies on the front of this, and there's other bodies in the video, they're pretty gory. There's the aftermath. Blood's still red. That means people were just shot. It hasn't coagulated. It hasn't gotten dark brown yet. It's fresh. It's also really gross to see. That's why I'm warning you before showing you. I had a little bit of an issue. I lit myself on fire. My fault. It was 100% my fault. My situational awareness failed me. Usually the first thing I do when I get to a camp is I stir the fire to see if there's any hot coals. But upon arrival, there's generally pretty good indicators that the person who was there before me took proper care of the environment, including that fire when they left. Because of the splash pattern from when they pour water on top of the fire. I didn't do that. And I had some incendiary liquids on me. I should have been more careful. I should have been paying better attention. But I ended up lighting myself on fire. And part of that is because although I'm usually pretty good with situational awareness, there was a situation that was very scary to me and showed me people here do not have good intent, which I already knew. You expose racists, they don't fucking like it. Pretty much guaranteed, one of these days, I'm just gonna disappear. Somebody's gonna plug me, bury me, and forget I exist. And the rest of you probably will too. Maybe one of these days, 20 years from now, long after I'm dead and gone, you'll see something on A&E. Where is he now? She could be out there. Ooh. Make me an even bigger boogeyman. Oh, they never found Sean Schwartz's body. He's probably out there killing people today. Dumbasses, I ain't never killed anybody. If anybody pays close attention to the goddamn story, they know that Joseph Michael Lopez shot Natalie Bollinger in the fucking head. Not Sean David Schwartz. A lot of people took part in Natalie Bollinger's death, and I'm one of them. I tried hard to get my voice heard. And I tried hard to get her voice heard. It didn't matter. I'll show you the burns on my hand. You see that? Not too bad. Goes up my arm too. Singed. Of course, it went down the full front of me. Singed off all my belly hair. Of course, I did stop, drop, and roll thing. That's where that come from. Isn't it beautiful looking? Ugh. Y'all root for a lot of things that are fucking disgusting. There's a lot of people that their idea of helping me was to threaten to kill people for me. Like, no, that's not fucking happening. Y'all obviously ain't seen enough bodies. You obviously need to see a few more bodies so you get the point. War ain't pretty. Those are fucking kids killing each other over there. Of course, we got a lot of people Ukrainian side that were much, much older. Some of them in their 40s and 50s over there. A lot of them in their 40s and 50s. There's enough old men fighting in Ukraine that the average age of the fighters there is over 30. My personal belief, and the belief of a lot of people here in the United States, is that nobody should be allowed to fight in a war unless they're at least 35 years of age. You just ain't mentally mature enough, and you ain't lived in the world long enough to know if you're fighting for the right shit or not. How many soldiers here in the United fucking States, out on the fucking streets, would join the military knowing what they're going to be treated like getting out? You know, it's one thing when your mommy and daddy tell you, oh, stay away from those people. Those are bad people. And you wanna fight for an America you believe in. Well, the only America you know is mommy and daddy's. You know their code of ethics, their beliefs. You know what they taught you. You have no fucking clue what the real world is like. You have no idea what real America is like. You know what your mommy and daddy allowed you to know. This Valgear feller, Valgear. I recommend watching his videos. The one thing about simplicity and ease of manufacture is that you can make a lot of them. On an assembly line, you can arm the whole world with RPG-7s and AK-47s. Pretty easily. We can reverse engineer them, just like the Russians did with our stuff. Where did the RPG-7 come from? Well, it was an adaptation of the RPG-2. The RPG-2 was almost a direct knockoff of a World War II weapon called a Panzerfaust 250. The Panzerfaust 150 was in trials and also had been issued several hundred of them to frontline troops to be tested on the front lines. They were very effective. And where do those come from? Well, those in the Panzerschreck were designed because they had a shaped charged warhead, just like the RPG-7, the RPG-2. Well, that came from a bazooka. That was our magic introduction in 1942. 2-inch shaped charge. Of course, that gun design, it's been modernized a million and one different ways, hasn't it? But it didn't start there. Nope, that device goes all the way back to 1910 with the Davis recoilless rifle. or Davis recoilless gun. Designed as a naval gun, they actually mounted them to airplanes in World War One. That's the father of the modern bazooka. Just a tube. That's literally all it is. A bazooka, if you designed an RPG-7 the way you design a bazooka, you'd be fine. If you made the bazooka so that the body itself acts as the positive wire and the negative wire trails to the back, you would only have to wrap one wire. And you could attach it to a clip just like on a bazooka. You could literally do that by super gluing and wire wrapping a clothing pin to the back of literally just a metal tube. Of course, why would you want to do that? We've got the RPG-7. We know how it works. It works extremely well. The Davis recoilless rifle is an impressive piece of machinery in its own right. We've also got modern variations and adaptations, such as the Prig. As long as you use black powder and you pay attention to the amount that you use, and you only use the legal amount, hell, you can even have a rocket launcher, as you want to call it, as a felon in the United States. That's right. A felon can own a recoilless rifle, as long as it's black powder, as long as the bore size is 20 millimeters or smaller. And of course, it has to be caseless ammo, which means that you have to put it in two different stages, possibly three, depending on the state that you're in. Some of them require that you pack in the powder and the wadding separately. Some states allow you to do it the old-fashioned way, which is the paper is your wadding and it's wrapped around your powder, and you're just gonna stuff the whole damn thing in there. So, yeah, you like your toys, you like your Second Amendment, you like bragging about how you'd go shoot these people and those people. Well, obviously you ain't shooting those people because you're talking about it. Obviously you're just a mouse. Well, some of these people ain't just mouths, and those are the ones that I need to worry about. I don't need to worry about the ones threatening me. I gotta worry about the ones that ain't. Ted Bollinger's a punk-ass little bitch. Tillamook police don't know who they fucked with, and I don't mean that as a threat. I mean that as in, well, in all these years, and all these people trying to shut me the fuck up, I still ain't shut the fuck up, have I? And I'm not gonna. I learn about and research shit that I wish I never knew. But I also understand that I have to know that stuff. Same as I have to know it's in the Bible. Even though I'm not a Christian. Same as I need to know it's in Mein Kampf. Even though I'm not a Nazi. Know your enemy as you know yourself. And be they only your enemy if they choose to be. I never sought out to make enemies. I sought out to make peace. But people see peacemakers as weaklings. We take more damage than all of you. We're the first people to be locked up and executed. Intellectuals. Anyway, I'm sick of the bodies. I'm sick of seeing them. I'm sick of hearing about them. I'm just disgusted by all of it. And I've been respectful with the dead out here on the streets. I haven't filmed any of the carcasses out here that I've seen. I don't throw it in y'all's faces like I want to, because I know that people will use it shamefully. If I show you the bodies of the dead out here, how do we get treated? How dare you show that on TV? How dare you show that on Facebook? How dare you show that on YouTube? Ew, that's gross. What the hell's wrong with you? My kids watch the TV. My kids play on YouTube. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? I'm offended. Then there's the respect for the dead and the families of the dead. But you got to pay attention to whose families those are and what they did. Y'all don't know the Bollinger family. You don't know all the horrible things that they've done. And you don't care. When it comes to Ukraine or anywhere else where there's conflict for that matter, you're pretty well going to stick to the script CNN gives you. You're not going to stop to realize the human cost of it all. You never see the bodies, so it must mean they don't exist. You didn't see the 30,000 people that San Diego says were trafficked through their city last year. You don't see those 30,000 people, do you? So they must not exist. Human trafficking must not be a big problem. Have you stopped at a rest area recently? There's a reason that there's human trafficking posters in nearly all of them now. Yeah, dear truckers, that prostitute that you found in that lot, she's on a missing persons poster somewhere. But to you, she's $20 well spent. Or $50 maybe. To those of you truckers looking out for those ladies, thank you. For those of you porta potty cleaners that gotta clean up them fucking meth needles, thank you. To those of you who are doing the right goddamn thing, even though you don't have a badge, an M16, a camouflage helmet, those of you who go, you know what, I don't have any kids, but goddamn it, I don't want anybody else's kids stepping on that or picking it up and playing with it or putting it in their mouths. I don't know how many children I've seen with their parents that run off. Now the parents grab them in time that they don't get out in the road. But how easy would it be for one of them kids, especially like this guy today, right? There's this youngin' who was playing around the corner of the building, and his dad come around the building yelling at him. You know, just a few days ago, I picked up 2 heroin needles there. That boy could have fallen on them heroin needles. Anything could have happened with that. Now, how many people's parents and children marked by those needles and saw them and said nothing and did nothing? Thought to themselves, oh, somebody else will do something. Are you sure? Yeah, it'll come down to some filthy goddamn hobo who you guys use as a boogeyman. Try to scare your kids into compliance. Cops nationwide, hospitals nationwide, courts nationwide prey on the homeless for profit. And because of this, we get people like Officer Waylon Lolotai, who gets a big head about it. He went on a rampage of assaulting homeless people in Boulder, Colorado. One of those homeless people was Samuel Leon Lawrence IV. And it turned out he wasn't actually homeless. Homeless people nationwide are abused over a reputation that is undeserved. If a girl moves out of her parents' house at 18 because dad won't stop raping her and mom doesn't care, that doesn't mean that she's a fucking junkie out here looking for a fix. When she ends up a corpse after being out here for a whole fucking decade, from 18 to 28, or you get Natalie Bollinger, she was 19. Christine Buhit was old as fuck. Making it to your 40s, you started off in hell. And you're an actual drug addict like she was. It's insane to think that she made it alive as long as she did. I'm going to post the link to Val Gear's video as soon as I end this. But I'm warning you, there's bodies in it. You'll see the gray of a dead man's eyes. You'll see chunks of what used to be people. And you'll see carcasses dried up like raisins. There's some good music to go along with it. You know how we end these videos? Good to be rid of you. Thank you for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and your sister's keeper too. And no victim left behind.